Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on this second episode of a podcast powered by Ascend Online called Edify with Eide. As you might know, my name is Eide and I will be the host for this podcast today. It is episode 2 in our series called Inspired Women in Business, where we speak to female entrepreneurs, their journey, their obstacles, and how they overcome them. My guest today is Andrea Hoffman. She is an e-commerce entrepreneur and she also is the owner of 2 children's clothing lines, and she is going to share her story with us today. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast yet, if you may be watching this on YouTube, please download the Podbean app for free on iOS and Android and search for Edify with Eide. Click on the little bell notification so that you don't miss any new episodes. So let's move over to our guest for today. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be my second guest in our Inspirational Women in Business series. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, Eide. We're doing well. I'm doing fabulously.
That's great. We are in a BNI group together called Alpha Plus. So I've known Andrea since about November last year. And since I've come to know her, I absolutely love her personality, and I thought she is the ideal guest to be in our Inspirational Women in Business series on Edify with Eide. Andrea, I want you to share your story with us today. I absolutely love listening to women in entrepreneurship stories and their struggles and what they've been through and how they overcame their obstacles. So I know your story, but for everybody listening and watching today, please share your story with them. How did you get into entrepreneurship? What was the motivation behind that?
So I actually started off studying architecture, and I was at varsity, and it wasn't something that I was loving. And my dad is a civil engineer, and he worked on a big hotel project, and he got me a job shadow at a big interior design company because that was my second thing that I wanted to go do. And I actually ended up working closely with the graphic designer, and I just realized that this was my space. 2D digital world that we're joined at the hip. So that was how I decided, that is how I got into graphic design. And then I was working in companies for ages, and I got married and had kiddies, as one does. And I decided that I wanted to try be at home for as long as I could with my kids. And that is how the entrepreneurship bug slowly started biting.
Okay, so I think a lot of women are in the same position. They kind of find themselves in a corporate environment, and then they feel like, okay, it's time to have a family and get married and kind of settle down, but we kind of don't want to sacrifice that, that personal relationship with our children that we have, kind of for the work relationship. And it's difficult sometimes, I don't know about you, but I'm a type of career person. So I won't ever be able to just be the stay-at-home mom. Do you feel the same about that, or what's your perspective on that?
I had 4 years at home with the kiddies, and it was amazing, but I definitely felt that I wasn't being challenged, and I didn't want also for the business world to leave me behind, because I think 4 years out of the game is a long time to so it did take me a while, sort of a couple of months to get back
into it. Yeah.
And then I just duck to water. It was
no, for sure. You hear a lot of women having the same problem when when they decide, let's say, I'm going to raise my children, say, for the first 3 to 4 years from home until they say go to preschool, or even longer, and they've been out of the game, so to speak, for such a long time, and they actually really struggle to get kind of back into it. And things can really change within just a few couple of years, especially with technology and industries and all those types of things. You might still know what's going on, and then you get back into it and realize you've been left behind. No, for sure. And then so what was the biggest obstacle that you encountered when you decided, okay, I'm going back into business, I'm going to start my own thing, I've got this passion for digital design and everything related thereto? when you started your business up until where you are currently, being a very successful e-commerce entrepreneur, digital designer, what was the biggest obstacle that you overcame in your entrepreneurial journey so far, and how did you overcome that?
I think time management, I think for everybody is a tricky one. But I'm also one of those people that I've never kept office hours. So if a deadline comes in, I will work until it's finished. I've never really believed in 9 to 5. I believe in get the job done. So time management was really tricky, trying to fit in family and everything. So I ended up using time management software. I don't know if I'm allowed saying which one I use, but I use Hours for Teams, and it's incredible. So I've loaded all my, because I work with 2 other designers, part of Evolve Unlimited, and we're all on this time management software, and it's just incredible. I can see how many hours Kirsten's logged on a job. I can see how many hours Kenton's logged on a job, and it's helped me with my invoicing. It's helped me with, and also you budget for a job and you budget 4 hours and you realize 8 hours later.
For sure.
Just with time management, it's helped me with finances and sort of costings for jobs as well.
Two very important things that you brought up now that crossed my mind that I also want to mention is you spoke about, you don't believe in office hours, you believe in getting the job done. And that's for sure the truth. Especially since, COVID has come around and everybody's working remotely, etc. And many industries, especially in industries like yours as well, even development, anything digital or technology wise, they've tend to kind of draw their KPIs also based on results and not in as much, say in the sales department, how many calls have you logged, how many emails have you sent, etc. At the end of the day, they're treating people now like responsible adults and saying, here's your quarterly target. You know what you need to do to get those sales in. I don't care if you sit in your pajamas the whole day, as long as we have our weekly catch-ups, and you have kind of gotten to the point where you need to be. That's the first thing. And then the second thing that you spoke about, your biggest struggle being time management. And I think it's really important that we kind of know where our strengths and weaknesses are and see what we can use to kind of, assist us in getting it right. Yours is time management, so you use time management software, which is amazing. It's a great tool. There's so many tools out there. And also to kind of give you clarity on what you're spending your time on. Because I can imagine, you might be thinking you're putting in a full day's work, but if you look at your timers sometimes, because I use time management software as well, and I look at the time and I'm like, gosh, I've only worked 3 solid hours, because you kind of stop it and then you do something and then you start, and that's how it goes on. So that's a really good tip. How do you balance your work life and your personal life? Because I presume that you work from home, you don't have an external office, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I've got an office in the garden, but it's still in the house.
Because that's difficult. I work from home too, so I know how difficult it can be. And you've got boys and I've got a boy. So how do you kind of, divide those 2 worlds without not shutting off? Because that's also a real risk for us.
Yeah. So I've created an office outside we've got an outside flatlet. So I do feel like during the 9 to 5. I am in the office, and the boys know that I'm in the office, so they don't come in and go, "What's for lunch?" So they know that when I'm in there, they're not to disturb me. And then what I find is that if I do have to do some things in the evening, which is almost all the time, which is terrible, but I actually bring my laptop inside. And, my hubby is a great cook, and he's also a very hands-on dad. So while he's cooking, I'll be in the kitchen, sort of just finishing off some emails or finishing off a job. And then in the evenings, if the boys want to watch a series that we want to watch with them, I'll sort of sit at the dining table, which is right next to them. So it's not ideal sometimes, but I do feel like I don't just shut myself away and exclude them completely. I do try between the after hours.
Kind of almost have a separation between the two. And it sounds like you've got a good support structure as well, with your husband supporting you. And I think that's one thing that people don't need to take for granted is your support structure at home. As you said, he's a very hands-on dad and he's a great cook. You lucky girl. So yeah, for sure. And we need to kind of, because I'm the type of person, I don't tend to want to rely on other people, but I also do realize when I do need it, and then I need to take that offer, because a lot of times my husband also tells me, I'll make dinner, and I'm like, no, I'll get to it just now, just give me 5 minutes, and then it ends up being 30 minutes, and when I look to the kitchen, he's like done with dinner. So no, we definitely need to kind of make use of that support structure that we have. Tell me, Andrea, if you could do anything differently in this whole journey that you've been on, what would you do? Is there anything that you would do differently, and why?
I would have trusted myself more and trusted my abilities. And I think there's a big stigma out there in the world. You need a degree to sort of, your worth is directly related to the degree you have. And I just have a diploma in graphic design. I don't have a degree. And in the beginning, I sort of felt very
inferior.
And I just realized that after 25 years experience or 20 years experience, you know a lot more than the person with a degree. So believe in yourself, believe in your experiences, learn from your experiences. So believe in yourself.
And if opportunities obviously present themselves, take on those opportunities, don't be afraid. I did a video the other day as well, and I 100% am on board with you when you say that, kind of agree that your degree doesn't necessarily mean the type of knowledge that you have is useful. I've spoken to many industry experts, and they always have the same complaints. Someone has done an undergrad and they've done their grad and they've done their honors and, all that type of stuff. They've never worked a day in their life. Get into the industry, get into the job, do an internship, and kind of do the internship for, and then he's like, they don't know what they're doing, because at the end of the day, book knowledge and industry knowledge are two very different things. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of encourage students studying online to do an internship at the same time, so that they can kind of build up that practical knowledge and experience that they will then eventually use in the industry, when they enter the formal workforce. And I think we're moving away from a stage where we look at formal qualifications on paper and so much, and we look at skills based. I mean, being able to code and those types of things, I personally think are much more worth your time and effort than sometimes having a degree. And a lot of people end up studying a degree and they don't even use it. They go into a completely different industry. I'm one of those. I studied law and now I'm doing tech. So so it's one of those things. What do you think?
Very true. So true. But I think you learn way more in I think just even having my designer started with me almost 4 years ago, and she studied, I think she had a degree, and she started out, and in the last 4 years I've managed to hone her skills to what I want them to be. She's just come so far, and she will even say, experience is way more, it's got way more advantages than actually studying.
For sure.
I'm not saying studying's bad.
And I think your workplace leadership has a lot to do with it, because you can have a very, you might have someone that you need to report to that's not very involved, really doesn't care about your personal development in the workspace, all that type of stuff. But you kind of fit into the shape of like a mentor type of leader in your business, kind of, the go-to person, giving advice, giving leadership. And those types of things. I think that's really important, because a lot of people go into their workplace, and I think that's a big part of being unfulfilled in your job, just going to do your job and whatever. But I mean, I thrive in an environment where I've got a mentor, for example, and this person just, teaches me the secret trades of the industry and those types of things. Andrea, and if you could, to everybody listening today, but especially women entrepreneurs thinking of starting their own businesses, what advice do you have for them? What some things to look for? How do you make decisions when you start your own business? What would you say?
I think what we need to realize that you are going to work harder than you will ever work in your life. For sure. You're going to work much harder than you would have in a corporate. But it's so much more fulfilling. And I think one of the big things is don't ever lose touch with your clients. Pop them an email every now and then. Use our women caring skills. We're good at caring. We're good at
nurturing,
sort of being sensitive nurturing relationships. And a lot of my clients yesterday, for example, a lady that I'd worked for in a corporate 3 years ago had moved to another corporate, and she phoned me and she was like, we need a whole bunch of work. So don't ever lose those relationships, because they can move into other
places and develop and all that type of thing. No, definitely. And I think a lot of people, a biggest part of your business, it depends on what industry you are in, depends on recurring revenue and the lifetime cycle of your client. So kind of, and I think any person can agree to say that if I heard from a supplier, even if I didn't ask them something, to kind of just have a touch base with them once in a while, when I definitely need something from that person to be done, I'm for sure going to go to that person instead of, going to someone new, because they're actually nurturing the relationship. And I know there's an industry tendency to say, selling is not about relationships anymore. It's about, adding value-added services and value-added material on social media. And then, Andrea, just before we end off, tell us, to everybody listening and they want to find you and know what you do, where can they find Evolve Unlimited and your children's clothing ranges?
So our design agency decided to put their knowledge into practice, and we actually bought 2 retail brands. The one is a global lifestyle brand called Tokidoki. So you can go check them out on Tokidoki, tokidoki.co.za, or follow us on Instagram at Tokidoki_South Africa. And another one, our latest venture, is a kids clothing brand. It's called EcoPunk. You can go visit our retail store at Shop 6 Emma Farm, Komiki Road, Komiki, or go and look at our website and shop online at eco-punk.co.za. Otherwise, you can go to the machine that powers them all, evolveunlimited.com.
100%, that's amazing, and I can definitely vouch. I've had a look at the EcoPunk range on Facebook, and it's absolutely amazing. I know that you collaborated with someone on the range. It looks incredible, and I really must commend you on it. It looks beautiful. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your knowledge and your expertise. I know sometimes it's not easy to share stories. Not everybody's stories were as easy as others. And, I'm sure you have had many struggles in your entrepreneurial journey as well. So I just want to really thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much. You're a superstar, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Stay well.
Yeah.
To all of you listening today, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you haven't subscribed to our podcast yet, you are more than welcome to download the Podbean app for free on iOS and Android. Search for Edify with Eide and turn on the bell notification so that you don't miss an episode. We will also be uploading the live video recording of this podcast episode into our playlist Edify with Eide on YouTube at our YouTube channel Ascend Online. You can also find us on Clubhouse at Eide Ascend, on Facebook at Ascend Online Digital, and on LinkedIn at Ascend Online. So until next episode, please take care and we'll see you then.